recording and we'll get moving. Welcome everyone to today's SEA development session. My name is Leslie Buxton. I am one of the SEA Development Committee members, and we're really excited to be able to provide great training and resources to you. And one of those folks that we have here on our campus is Kathy McConkie. I'm really excited to introduce her to you. We're going to be hearing from her for about an hour, and then you will have 15 minutes for questions on the back end. I will be watching the chat as questions come up if you want to ask them during the presentation, but know that you will have those 15 minutes there at the end. Kathy McConkie works here in the College of Business currently as the Director of Operations, as well as the MBA program, advisor for the Huntsman School of Business. She's been a member of our university community for 27 plus years. And I wanted to also mention that she's had a variety of other positions outside of the university, and I wanted to read those to you. She's been a ranch hand. She's been a cake decorator, a donut fryer, a department store clerk, a bank teller, and an elementary school secretary, in addition to all of the other things that she has done. She also is an Aggie through and through. She did her bachelor's degree here at USU in liberal arts and sciences, as well as her master's degree she received in 2011 in the ITLS program. I'm going to go ahead and turn the time over to you now, Kathy.
Hey, thanks everyone for coming. I'm a little bit relieved that there are people here, so that's kind of nice. You just never know. It's like you throw a party and nobody comes, right? So I'm really grateful to have everyone there. I do want to address the elephant in the room, though. That is when it announced that I was an expert. I'm not an expert at anything. So, but I've been around for a heck of a long time, and I am so happy to share some of the things that I have learned, especially in this topic, because it's been something that I've really had to concentrate on as part of my job here in the MBA with the grad students in the business school. So I am going to share my screen, and so let's get started on this. There will be a time when I am going to ask for maybe your ideas or your experience. And so I think the best thing to do is just to pipe up, and whoever has the loudest voice gets to go first. Does that sound good? Okay. All right. So I've actually been at Utah State for more than 32 years. Obviously, I need to update that that bio on our website. But it's a great place. As Leslie said, I am an Aggie through and through, and I'm very, very grateful for what Utah State has done for me. Okay, so let's jump in. Networking. We're going to talk about networking today. And I have to admit, one of the first things that we do, right, is that we jump out on the internet and we look at what are the latest trends. So this is what I saw, and I thought, dang, because I hadn't looked for a little while, right? COVID kind of shut, and I thought, man, that has really gotten technical, and I thought, I don't think that I am qualified to do this. And then it hit me, networking as in data. So you can all relax. We are not going into that, because I think it would be really, really hard for me to teach anything on that. Okay, so let's talk about what networking is. There's a graphic up here that shows a lot of the different pieces of what networking is. It is not just about going to a career fair, but it's about establishing, building, and nurturing long-term relationships with people that you meet, whether you're going into Old Gristmill to get a bagel, or you're playing on intramural sports like Shelby Kennedy does, or whether or not you're attending a work conference. So that's what networking is. And networking doesn't mean that you have to join lots of different professional associations, but it does mean that you have to kind of put yourself out there and you have to start making connections. In fact, if you take your eyes off of your smartphone when you are out and about, you will have great opportunities to network, whether it's in line, whether it's at the grocery store. There are opportunities all around us for us to take advantage of networking opportunities. So I had one just yesterday, and I'm going to throw it out there. I want to have a couple of people share their ideas of a networking opportunity. So yesterday I had to return a Halloween costume that did not fit for my granddaughter. We're raising our 12-year-old granddaughter. And so that costume that we got at Amazon did not fit. So I had to go down to UPS and they were sending it back. So I get in line and the lady in front of me, she looks at me and I look at her and I said, "You look really familiar." And she said, "You look familiar too." And so I said, "Well, my name's Kathy McConkie." And she said, "Well, my name is Elaine Ricks." And I said, "Oh, we've never moved in more than 20 years in Smithfield, but she used to live down the road from us about 3 blocks. And I said, "Oh, yeah, I know your son used to hang out with one of our kids." And so we just chit-chatted for like a minute before we got up to the counter, because they're so fast at the UPS store. And when I was leaving, she turned to me and she said, "Thank you for remembering me." And I thought, that is, of course, this was on my mind, this topic, right? But I thought, that's networking. And so we have so many opportunities to do that. But does anyone have even a little incident like that where it's hit you that, you know what, this is important to engage with other people?
I got one.
Hey, Zach, go ahead.
So I make it a point to introduce myself to my bus drivers. And so if you guys know anything about the Cache Valley Transit District, they change drivers every week at least. And so I've actually developed a relationship with each of the bus drivers that I've had. There's one, her name is Tony, and we kind of joke around with each other because she says every time she introduces herself as Tony, no one believes that that's her name. And so now I think of different T names every time I see her. I call her Tanisha and Tanya. And so it's fun because like I may never have a business interaction with Tony outside of her driving me home, but it's important to recognize people as people. I feel like it makes the world a better place.
Amen. That is a great, so I'm on Route 15. So, but I don't see you on my bus, but I'm going to start doing that too. Has anybody else got an example?
Looks like Janae wants to speak. Feel free to go ahead and speak, Janae.
Okay, thank you. So it's really funny. I love people and I love talking to people and making new friends, acquaintances. And I didn't really realize how much I enjoy doing that and how often I do that until I started, going on vacation with my family to different places in Utah and outside of Utah. And almost every time I run into someone I know, and it's the weirdest thing. I was in Florida a couple weeks ago with some friends, and I was like, there's no way I'm going to run into anyone I know here, but it'd be really funny if I did. And sure enough, when we were at Disney World, one of my teachers in a religion class that I have was there, and I ran into him and his family, and it was the craziest thing, but it just made me realize, you know, how significant those relationships are in my life and how much I enjoy running into people, and how beneficial it is for my life as well. So it was kind of a fun experience there.
That is really cool. One time I was in Jordan, I mean the country Jordan, right? And I don't even remember what it was. I ran into one of our students, one of our graduates. I mean, that's the most bizarre one that I've ever done, but it is absolutely cool to be able to do that. That's awesome. Okay, well, we've got to move along. But you know, there's no better reason than to make these connections and to build these relationships than it is just to be a nice person. You know, I think that is so important. You just need to be a nice person, and that's going to make networking so much easier. I absolutely can attest to it. So you've come to this to this workshop because you want to do a better job at networking. Well, guess what? So do I. There are some people who are really, really outstanding networkers, and I'm going to introduce you to some of them. I've got a couple of coworkers who are outgoing, they're extroverts, but there's still hope for some of the rest of us. So there are some of the one of the things that we need to always look at is the why. And in fact, if I could flip around my camera, you could see that on my wall, I have a big question mark. That is something that I want to ask myself, whatever I am doing, why am I doing it? And one of my coworkers is so good about bringing us back to, well, what's the why of something? Well, did you know that networking contributes to your social well-being? And that's one of the reasons why people had such a hard time in COVID, because they were not making those connections as well as they had been in person. It leads to the exchange of ideas. I cannot tell you how many times it has been in our office when we get together that we are just bouncing ideas and improving one thing after another. It also helps you to meet people at all professional levels. And I think maybe that's something that we focus on, just that one, but it's not just that. And it also helps to boost your professional confidence. So some of us like to network and some of us don't. But experts say that if you are a good networker, you are going to be more successful in your life and in your career than other people that don't spend time doing it. So when you invest in your relationships, professional and personal, and let's not forget that this is not just about professional, but it's also about personal. It can pay you back in dividends throughout the course of your career. And so networking is essential because it's going to help you develop and improve your skills. You're going to stay on top of the latest trends in the industry. You're going to keep a pulse on the job market. You're going to meet prospective mentors. And that is really the case for me, and you'll be able to hear that from Liz later on. And also to gain access to necessary resources that are going to help you to boost your career. And so people think that networking is only useful during a job search, but the purpose of networking goes way, way beyond that. And it's about your career. And in today's workforce, it's up to you to take control of your career development, which is exactly what my friend Oscar Martinez did. And so I want to introduce you to Oscar. Oscar is one of our grads. He's also a mechanical engineer grad. So there you go, Joan. And he did his undergraduate here. The nice thing about Oscar is that he is an amazing individual. He was just recognized as one of the young alumnus for Utah State this year, will be recognized at homecoming. But when you talk about what he did when he was 15 years old, his family, his dad brought him, his mom, and his younger brother, whose name is Oscar Alex. And they brought them to Logan, relocated them from Venezuela. And if you know anything about Venezuela, you know how bad that situation was. But his dad stayed working down in the oil fields in Venezuela so he could support his family here. They went first to New York, then they came to Logan, and Oscar, being, and we would call them, I don't like to call them illegal aliens, but undocumented. And he was what is called a dreamer. And so he could not get any federal aid to go to school. He had to pay every single penny of it. And so he worked hard. And then when he came into the MBA, he started a couple of companies, and he worked even harder then, built them up and actually sold them. So his recognition, he's gone to work for McKinsey, a consulting firm. He's done lots of different things. He's now an angel investor, and he rightly so has been recognized this year. And they've got a lunch a breakfast that they're going to have to recognize him on homecoming on the 8th of October. And he has a couple of extra tickets. And you know what he did with that? He contacted me and he said, Kathy, I just would like to take a couple of our current MBA students and let them get exposed to people. And I mean, I would have taken my husband, right? I would have taken my family. I'd have taken my mom, you know? But he is just somebody who gives back. And so this is what I've learned from Oscar. But we don't grow when things are easy. We grow when we face challenges. And that was him. That has been him for many, many years, and been absolutely an inspiration to me. So why do you network or want to network? The statistics say that 76% say we need to do that in order to get ahead in life. But only 22%, is it 22? You guys are covering. Yep, 22 are actually doing anything about it and taking those opportunities. So you're here at this workshop. Why do you want to do this? What do you want to learn? Any brave person? Awkward silence. Okay, guys. Zach, you're my go-to guy. I can already tell that.
Sorry. So the reason I feel like it's important I like going to things like this because people that go to things like this often want to network as well. And I enjoy meeting new people. And I think that networking is very, very important, like you were saying, in our modern world. I feel like it's very, very difficult to get much of anywhere anymore without networking. So that's why I like to come.
Okay. So to meet people, to learn.
And also to help other people too. Because like
Oh.
we all face challenges, and I like to be able to assist people in their professional path as much as I can with the little resources that I have. I don't have many opportunities, but I do try.
I love that attitude, and that is something that is really important. So we learn, we do it to learn. We do it so that, for example, I am doing this networking workshop to be kind to Leslie, and so because she's been kind to me, and so there are lots of different ways, but even learning how to network is, well, how about getting into an elevator and there's just this, if people, they don't make eye contact, it's just these awkward silences. And I've just decided there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, and how you doing? And you having a good day? And especially with students, and they'll open up. I've got an accounting test, and so it's really good to be able to develop those kind of skills. Okay.
Kathy, we've got a few mentions in the chat. Do you want me to
Oh,
read
let's
those
do
for
it.
you?
I love
Okay.
that.
Okay, Connie says she wants to know how to begin. Janae says how to maintain already made relationships with professional relationships and personal. Sarah says I'm in a rut. I need a jump start. Elizabeth says I know networking is super important. I want to be better at it. I feel like I say dumb things sometimes. And then Zach says, oh, it looks like Trenton is raising his hand as well to make a comment. Go ahead, Trenton.
I actually wasn't. For some reason, it's saying that I'm making a comment.
Oh, it's sorry, it's another Trenton.
Okay.
Oh, there's two, Trenton Wilson.
Yes. All right. So, nothing feels better than to be able to tell somebody when they come to you for your professional services or your help or something like that. One of my favorite things ever is to be able to say, hey, I know a person. Let me introduce you. And that's, for the last few years, I've kind of made that as my goal, is to know the right people so that when I'm helping somebody else, I can be able to say, oh, you need to go talk to this person if it's something that I can't help with. And so, being able to have those connections and knowing who your network is, I think that's a powerful tool. And that's just a great feeling that I always get when I'm able to say, oh, you need to meet this person because I think they can help you.
Oh, that's awesome. That is absolutely awesome. And it happens all the time. If you will develop a reputation that you are somebody that can help. And so Trenton, that's a cool thing. I got a phone call yesterday from somebody and they said, oh, well, they transferred me to you. And I said, well, this is the MBA, but you know what? I've been around a long time. So let me tell you where it is that you need to go. And so it had nothing to do even with the business school, but I was still able to help because I'm getting old, so it's kind of cool. There are benefits for age, for sure. Okay, so who should we network with, right? That's one of the things that you need to start with, and that was a mention, so let's look at who. Anyone, everyone, that's the answer to that. You need to spread your net wide. You need to keep it growing. And you need to ask folks, just like Trenton, if they can think of anyone that they would recommend that you talk to. There is absolutely strength in being able to build your network and keep it growing. And so I would absolutely not say that there's anyone who is a waste of your time, because when we get into the how, and there are reasons that you never know who will be important to you at some point in your life. You just don't know that. So I want to introduce you to another master networker. His name is Andrew Marino. Liz already introduced me to Andrew. He was a student here at Utah State. He just graduated from the Huntsman School of Business last May. But during the time that he was going to school, he was hustling. He was taking advantage of everything that he could. He was working, and before he ended his USU career, he landed a job at the Utah Jazz. That is not an easy thing to do, but he was only there for 10 months before he then landed his dream job, literally, at LinkedIn. And so Andrew, when I contacted him to say, could I send people your way? Because he is amazing at networking. His first thing out of his mouth was, you bet, send him my way, would love to connect with them. And he said, do you need me to do a workshop? And that's the best kind of person to be a networker. It's not about being a taker. It is about what can you contribute. So we'll be sharing these slides. Leslie, we can share these slides, right? Okay, we'll be sharing these. And so you'll have these links. You'll have the LinkedIn links to all of these networkers whom you can connect with, and just say Kathy McConkie sent you. And then the YouTube link down at the bottom of Andrew's is a link that he did just earlier this month in September. He did a LinkedIn networking workshop, and it's about 34 minutes, and you will be able to see everything, all of the information that he shares about LinkedIn. It is priceless, and there's the link. And let me tell you, Andrew will connect with you. And if I can say anything about all of these master networks, is that watch them, watch what they do, watch how they interact with people, and especially virtually, because they are amazing. And we'll talk about some of the things that they do. So this is what I've learned from Andrew. Not to be afraid to take risks, and always, always, always connect with people, because you never know where relationships are going to lead. You just never know. So, all right, so that's Andrew. So when's the best time to do that? The best time to network is not when you're looking for a job. Why is that? It's because you come across as negative, you come across as desperate, and you come across maybe a little bit as pushy. So the best time to do it is when you can focus, and so that is, okay, we're going to go back. Hang on just a second. When you're not looking for a job, because that's when you're best, it's your best self. It's when you're happy. It's when you are interesting to others. It's when you are open-minded. It's when you are most available. And so you're not rushed. It's not, oh, I got to get a job, and so I can only talk to this person rather than to this person, even though that person might be better connected and might be able to make connections for you. But if you've got a little bit of time, you can say, okay, I can meet with you. Yeah, a couple weeks, no rush, that's okay. And that gives you a little bit, makes you a little bit more approachable. And so something that you want to make sure that you start now. If you're not looking for a job, now is a great time to start networking. Okay, so the key to networking is to be interesting and interested. Okay, And so when we look at that, we look at the how. Okay, we've mentioned this. Networking isn't just about taking. And I think Trenton and Zach and Janae, they've already kind of hit on that. It's about giving. And good networkers don't go into networking always looking for something to get. It's about giving. And so an example of that was when Utah Valley University came on board as a university. We'd been teaching the MBA program down there for, I don't know, 15 years, something like that. We'd been down there a long time, actually on their campus. And so one of the first programs that they were going to do, they did a Master of Education and they did an MBA. That was one of the first things. We could have decided that we were not going to help them out. We were not going to, we weren't going to do anything, but what good would that do? Would it change that? Would it change the fact that they were going to become a university? Heck no, it wouldn't. But so we decided that we were going to take all of our syllabi, all of our scheduling, everything that we had, and they asked us to come down and we shared everything with them. So if you look at UVU's program, when it first started, it was Utah State, just not with as good a faculty. And that is really the truth. So, but even years later, when I talk to people from UVU, that bought us such goodwill. And there's not a competition. We have different markets. And so it's just an example about how giving really does benefit you. It really does. Another thing about how you do things, how you network, is tell your story. People love stories. And that is the way that you are going to remember them. You're going to remember Oscar Martina. Not Martinez, sorry, that was somebody else. Elaine Ricks's daughter's name is Rachel Martinez. I have lots of those names in my head. So you're going to remember Oscar because he was from Venezuela. I mean, literally escaped the country, right? And what he has done with his life. And Andrew Marino, because he is this master connector on LinkedIn, and you want to watch him and see what he does. And then another thing that you do, that networkers do, master networkers do, is that find people you would be generally interested in being around. And this is true for finding a job. I don't know about you, but the people that I work with, I spend an awful lot of time with them. And it is so good to work with people that I really, really like being around. And so if you are going to be looking for something to go to, you want to make sure that it's about a culture fit, right? And it's about people. And so you want to be a good networker so that you know how to connect with people. Okay. So those are some of the things that we use. And I want you to introduce you to another master networker. This is one of our dual MHR MBA grads. His name is Tyler Orr. You'll be able to connect with him. And so I want to share a story that he shared on LinkedIn. He said, "Oh, career fairs." So he graduated and he went to work for USAA, a bank down in San Antonio, Texas, and they serve the military. He was there for a couple of years, and now he is at the University of Tennessee, and he is a career coach there. And he does amazing things with their students. And you just watch, one of these days he's going to get a PhD and he's going to be a professor. I just bet money. I'd bet anyone $50 that that's what Tyler Orr is going to do. So this is what Tyler said. Oh, career fairs. My biggest memory is of 16 of us fitting into one tiny downtown Airbnb. Good times, but only slightly behind that in my memory is what we actually went for, to attend the largest career fair I've ever been to, hosted by the National Black MBA Association. I remember walking circles around this massive room with hundreds and hundreds of companies. I watched as some students worked the room like pros, getting more and more excited, charismatic, and personable with every interaction. Then there were people like me who were way overthinking and would spend far too long taking laps around the room, trying not to make eye contact and pausing for a massive chunk of time between each interaction. After every conversation, I would retreat to a corner, somewhere to take notes, rethink the entire rest of my strategy again, and gear myself up for the next company I wanted to talk to by looking them up online and planning out what I wanted to say to that specific one. And in the moment, that felt like weakness. I could tell I was often going beyond worthwhile preparation and really just looking to delay stressful situations. And we have all been there. I could see plenty of others who weren't managing the fair in the same way, so I felt self-conscious most of the time. But the more I thought back on that experience and worked with job seekers since then, the more I've realized it's okay to do that. If you're like me, I want you to take breaks. I want you to research and be prepared to talk personally to every company, ideally with something tailored you want to say to every individual there. I want you to have enough in the tank to be capable of engaging in a human conversation, not just listing your degree and that you want an internship or you want a job and then hoping the recruiter will take over from there. If you're not like me, though, don't use the same strategy. Each of you should go in with a plan and personal expectation that align with who you are and will enable you to put your personal best foot forward. So you can be like Tyler Orr. I kind of tend to take the laps and avoid, the eyes. At least I did before. I've gotten a lot better now, but connect with Tyler. Read his stuff on LinkedIn. He is, what I have learned from Tyler is tell stories. Tyler is such a good storyteller, and he brings everything back in to make it relevant to business. And he takes stories about his 3 kids and 3 boys, and he talks about things, and he makes it himself so relevant so that when people go to talk to Tyler, they are going to know him. And so tell stories and make sure that when you put things out on the internet, make sure that it is stuff that you don't mind people knowing about, because that's part of networking as well. You want people to know you that way as well. Okay, and be careful. Be careful. Okay, so how continued? When you are deciding to network, consider what it is that you have to offer. All of us think that we are not good enough. I can't play the piano enough, well enough. And my piano teacher told me that last night. She said, Kathy, you played that really well. I said, but I hit some wrong notes. She said, but you played that really well. you just don't have enough self-belief. So consider what we have to offer. Consider what it is. Talk to other people about yourself. Ask them, what is it that you think I have to offer? So number one, make sure what it is that you have to offer, because you have things that you can give. Trenton Wilson, he has things he can give. He's already shared that with us. Number two, let curiosity, curiosity is your friend. And it is not about gossiping. It is about Janae liking people, right? It is about her wanting to learn from other people. And so, let curiosity, if you hear somebody's last name and it is, okay, let's look at a name. I'm going to look at some names, guys. Okay. So we look at Matt Lovell. Okay. Well, I happen to know Matt Lovell. Hey, Matt. Let's say, let's look at Bischoff. So Marla Bischoff. Marla, I would say Marla, because one of the things I love is family history. So that's one of the things that I open up conversations with. Marla, where's your last name from? You know, do you know what the history of your last name is? Where your ancestors are from?
So my last name Mendoza is from El Salvador, and I have my other last name is Perez, and it's from Spain. So I have a mix there, and Bishop, that's my husband's last name. So
That's awesome. That is awesome. So there are lots of ways where you can let curiosity open up conversations. So I like that one too. Set higher goals. Higher goals is just don't settle for this much. Go into a situation thinking, I'm going to try this. And then sometimes you settle for this. But by setting higher goals and more expansive goals, you actually challenge yourself, and you are able to make it so that, okay, networking can seem sleazy. If all you are doing is trying to get something for yourself. So, but if you set higher goals to say, I am going to see what I can do. Maybe there's opportunities to share something or do something for somebody else, then it all of a sudden switches things around. Okay, number 4, because we're going to move along here, find common ground. Just because someone is a vice president does not mean that they also do not enjoy hiking or skiing or travel or reading books or murder mysteries or a number of things. So when you go and you talk to people, try to find that common ground. It will help you, number one, it will help you to be memorable. So when someone says that they love to travel, oh, I just perk up. Liz, who is going to talk to you later, she perks up. We grew up overseas, and so travel was inoculated with all of those vaccinations that we got, the cholera and the malaria and the you name it, we got them, and there was a travel bug that was put into us as well. And so there are lots of things that you can find that are common, and it's awesome to be able to talk to people and to find that common ground. Number 1, I would like to go to El Salvador. That is someplace I would really like to go. So Marlon, we should talk sometime. Okay, and finally, 5, follow up. make sure that when you are talking to people and you really want to pursue something, make sure that you follow up. How many of us have actually had somebody's come and talk to us, and then we get a nice little card and it says, thank you for taking the time to do that. Wow. The cockles of my heart warm up, you know, they really do. So some of the ideas of what you can do to get started. And I know that that's one of the things that people sometimes don't know about or don't think about. Okay, so the suggestions work for whether you're an extrovert or an introvert. But if you're shy, I just want to make sure that you know that you can take a friend along. Just don't cling to one another. You got to make sure that you help one another, just push out and try to do things. And the best place to start for me has been in an elevator. You know, just practice little chit chat, or like Zach on the bus, you know, it doesn't take much. It doesn't take much effort, and it doesn't take very long. Okay, our last master networker I'd like to introduce you to is Liz Allred. And I've asked her if she would mind sharing some of her networking stories. She is a master networker. She serves as the program director for the global learning in the Huntsman School. So in a good year, a non-COVID year, and she's back in business now, she can tell you how many programs she's going to be helping to send out. And I think, one of the statistics, at least before COVID, was that of all the study abroad international experiences, Liz had her hand in about half of them at Utah State University. So she is very, very international. Before she came here, though, she worked for many years as the assistant director of federal relations at a higher education association in Washington, D.C. And during that period, she advocated for international development, agricultural research and education programs. And so you can see why she is a master networker. If you can do that for 8.5 years in Washington, D.C., you can pretty much do it anywhere in the world. She is fluent in French. She's taught French here at Utah State University when they need her as an adjunct. And she also loves to, she has great interest in traveling. The picture right there is of her at the Coliseum. And so we are going to turn the time over to Liz Allred. Liz?
Thank you. So I'm not an extrovert, and so networking is always really a challenge for me, but I just gear up and do it. But I kind of have some ground rules for myself. So one of the things that I have really established is that for me, networking is about relationships and being a good steward of any relationship that I have. So when I was in DC, you can imagine it's a, dog eat dog world. It's pretty cutthroat, but it's worse since I left. But one of the things I decided early on is that I would never network with someone that I couldn't be sincere with, just have a sincere relationship with. So there are lots of people in that type of environment that'll network with anybody just to do whatever, but I just couldn't do it. That just was not me. And so I had to sometimes figure out ways that I could, reach the objectives of my constituents. And, so I lobbied for appropriations. So it was, money on the table. That's what I was always after. So sometimes I had to go through different layers of my network in order to achieve my objectives for my constituents. But I am glad to say that by the time I left DC, there was anyone that I needed to see at any level, I was able to get in. I was able to deliver appropriation dollars to my constituents, to their programs. And there were even times when the president of my association needed to go with me on my appointments because he couldn't get in to see the Secretary of Agriculture, but he had taken my call. So I had an appointment. So there are lots of things you can do, but I think that the bottom line is you have to be sincere about it. And so as the program director for global learning in the Huntsman School, one of the things that I need to do is help develop and maintain a global network. And so I just have a few fun stories that I will tell you about. So a few years ago, so I've obviously in my job, I'm connected with the World Trade Center, Utah. And they host a lot of different, visitors and stuff like that. And so one year I saw this name of this guide coming from France, and his name was Christophe Perez. And I looked at that, and he was from the south of France, and he was with the Economic Development Agency of Nice. And I thought, I bet I know who this is. And I'm pretty sure that he was 5 years old when I lived in France, and I knew his mother. So I determined that I was going to find out. So I went down to this event. So sure enough, I met him. I approached him at the end of his presentation, and I said, "So is your mother, Jeanette?" And he looks at me, and I'm like, "Yeah, I was." Anyway, we just connected, and I explained how I knew his mother and whatever. And so anyway, since that time, Christophe and we have become good friends. He's now the head of foreign direct investment in Provence Promotion out of Marseille. But in the meantime, he has become a really great contact. And when Kathy was talking about you try to give something back to the people in your network, you don't just take. I'm headed over next month because I'm in a taking mode at the moment. But in the meantime, I have been giving and giving and giving to Christophe, but in such a way that it has been really super beneficial for our students. So our MBA students have, over the last few years, been doing consulting projects for Christophe and some of his colleagues. The most recent that we've been doing is for the Port of Marseille, which is a major global port and a gateway to the Mediterranean, the Middle East, Europe, and Africa. So it's been great to do that. And in the meantime, Christophe has been really helpful in hosting us and connecting us with businesses in the south of France. And I'm moving our Paris program to Marseille. And so I'm headed over to extend my network through his assistance. And so it's a very good, synergistic, sincere relationship. And we're doing our executive MBAs this fall are doing another project for this organization called Euromed. They're building a smart city in Marseille, which is really quite interesting what they're doing. So he and we have networked, and there's just sometimes he gets something, sometimes I get something, but there is a true and sincere friendship there. And I just always think, what if I had not gone down to that meeting and just geared up and because I have to tell you, I am not an extrovert. So when I make contact, that I have, I've tried to get the endorphins moving, right? So I have the energy and to do it. So and what if I had not done that? And but was just an instant connection, and And we've just really benefited. They have benefited from all of the work that our students have done for them. And we have benefited by the connections, experiences that our students have been able to have. And then when we go to France itself, you know, the visits that we're able to, the companies were able to have access to. Another thing is that, that is a fun thing is I read a book. So, right, I'm a total Francophile, and I read a book called Pancakes in Paris by Craig Carlson. And so he's an American expat. He has 2 very successful American diners in Paris. 70% of his clientele are French. They want to eat pancakes, American pancakes, and they want to eat hamburgers. The French love hamburgers, FYI. Don't let them tell you anything different. So I read this book, but it was also really fascinating about the labor laws and what he had to deal with in getting his restaurant to the way that it is. And so I just reached out to him over LinkedIn and I said, hey, I'm going to be in Paris next month, and I just read your book and I loved it. And we bring students to Paris, and would you be willing to meet with them? And can I talk to you about it when I'm in Paris next month? And he just immediately responded, less than 24 hours, and just said, absolutely. So we had a great time meeting up and chatting. And so for 3 years pre-pandemic, we're taking students to his diner. He was talking about his experience, which is really, really fascinating. Doing business in France is not an easy thing to do. Their labor laws are counterintuitive to our labor laws, the way we do things. Business is not king, the employee is king, and he had some really hard lessons to learn. And so it was really, really fascinating. And so here he is talking to our students. And then, you know, the way that we gave back to him is that we bought everybody lunch, you know, at his diner. So they had a really cool experience with him. And I've stayed in touch with Craig, and I'll be seeing him next month in Paris. And so I'm looking forward to that. Sometimes you go to a place where you just absolutely know no one. And what do you do? I've had to set up networks in, you know, China, for example. But one of my most recent favorite experience is we decided to do an MBA program in Puerto Rico this past March over spring break. And of course, I knew absolutely no one. From my years in DC, I knew immediately. I had been to Puerto Rico through my job in DC, but I did know that the Dean of Agriculture at a land-grant university is a gold mine. And so I reached out to a friend of mine in Washington, and I said, so could you introduce me to the dean at University of Puerto Rico, Mayagüez? And which he did. And Raul Machiavelli turned out to be just, I mean, it was incredible. So we got connected through to the agricultural community, to the port of San Juan, to the administrator there. We got connected to the entrepreneurial environment. And then we tapped into the Shingo Institute to get into the healthcare industry. And so where we went from Zippo, we just had an abundance, and we were able to take our students to 10 company and organization visits. And we just learned so much about that island and its economy. And it was just really, really fulfilling to learn something about one of the territories of the United States, learn about who the Puerto Ricans are, what are their ambitions, coming away and learning and realizing what intellectual capital is available on that island, and just really, really incredible. And so there's nothing yet that I've been able to give back, but I did reach out after Hurricane Fiona, and you know, connected with the port administrator, finding out what happened there, the large export farmer, farm owner, and what happened to his crops and his operation, and to people at the university and whatnot. And it's pretty humbling, but you know, what they're surviving. And but we went from nothing to an abundance, and all because one friend connected me with one other person who just opened up the island. And so one of the things that I always do in is that I absolutely stay in touch with people. And it doesn't matter whether I have a program in a country or not. You know, I always stay in touch with them. I send holiday greetings, you know, those kinds of things. I'll just here and there. I have someone in Chile who always sends me a happy birthday email. And I think, oh, you know, he just remembers this from year to year to year. But anyway, but I really cherish that as well. I know for sure that I'm going to hear from him at least once a year, which is really a great thing. One of the other things that I will say in closing is that in our jobs here at the university, in my opinion, alumni, our students who become alumni, are one of our most valuable assets at the university for our networking purposes. And good relationships can lead to all kinds of things. Like you think about Oscar Martinez that Kathy mentioned. You know, Oscar has done a lot for the students. He's come and given workshops and talked to students. He's been willing to network with others. We have a lot of students who are really willing to do that. And they're really good connections. It's sometimes students are interested in a certain industry. We can introduce them to our alumni, and who will talk to them about just for informational interviews or to give them tips in how to enter a certain industry, those kinds of things. So really our students and our alumni, they are so important to us, and they're people that we really need to really value and stay in touch with. And anyway, so those are just some of the things that I have done in making connections. And the bottom line is that when you're networking, you have to put yourself out there, and you have to be willing to be vulnerable and open, and and also be willing to take what people are willing to give, and also always find out what you have to give to them. That's something I learned in DC. When you approach a member of Congress and you're asking for their support for a certain amount of appropriations, or even, you know, someone in the administration, what did I have to give them? I had economic data to give to them. So I delivered a lot of economic data that was pertinent to their state or to their programs, that they could take and show that they were being good stewards over the tax dollars of the American people, and that they were bringing home the bacon to their state. So that was always my responsibility, is that I never went to them empty-handed. I always went to them with good and extensive economic data that they needed for their own purposes. So anyway, those are just some things that I have done.
Oh, Liz, thank you so much. I was so impressed when she copied me on some of the emails that she sent to our contacts in Puerto Rico. You know, I knew that the hurricane had gone through, and how I'd heard how devastating it was. But did I do that? No, but Liz did that. So one of the things that I've learned from Liz is I have learned, in a world where you can be anything, be kind. And that is so important. There's nothing that a networker can do anything more important than be kind. And that is a key that will open up doors. in so many ways. And it might not be right away, but it might be in 10 years, and you will still have that that connection, because if you are kind, then people remember that. And I think that that's really important. And so last slide, the opposite of networking is not working. So if we want to continue working, we need to make sure that we are networking. So that's my presentation. That's my workshop, and I'm going to stop sharing. We have some time for some questions, if anyone's got questions.
Good job, Kathy. I knew it'd be wonderful.
Feel free to
Thanks,
either
Tom.
write your questions in the chat or speak and ask them, anybody who wants to.
Happy to share that. And I have tons of notes that you guys, this is much better than what I did, right? So it's really a lot better than me talking. But does anyone have any experiences they'd like to share?
Can I ask a question? And it's kind of sharing some of my story as well. I work for USU Extension as a family life educator, and networking is a huge part of my job because I reach out to partnerships to basically, I teach in other facilities. And so it's a big part of what I need to do. And so I loved all of the suggestions. What would you guys, recommend for, if you have a lot of connections that you're trying to maintain at the same time? What are some things that you might suggest for being able to maintain those relationships when there's a lot of different partnerships that you're trying to juggle? Does that make sense?
Right. And there are tools that you can actually use for that. There's, of course, Salesforce, because you think about the people that are doing Salesforce, they are maintaining a network of people that they need to, that are, it's part of their livelihood. But you know what? I know other people, and in fact, if anybody is interested, we might have a couple of books still left over. We've brought in a guy for the last 5 or 6 years. Shelby helped me out, who was Steve Dalton, and he talks about using Excel as a way to maintain and keep track of those connections. And so even something as simple as a spreadsheet is a good way to maintain those connections. You want to make sure that as you are designing that it has all the pieces and all the fields that you want to have to remember. Where are they? Different kind of contact information, but things to help you to remember them as well. If you can add a picture, that's always good. And then you're not stuck in my situation. Oh yeah, the other day when I know you, but but tell me what your name is, because there's just nothing funner than people knowing you and remembering your name. I mean, that's something that is deep within us. When people remember who you are, that's a treasure to them. Okay, so
Comment.
yeah, Lauren.
Hi. Okay, the comments that I want to make is just because I've got a couple different networks personally, because it just depends on what I'm using it for. I mean, I am the graduate program coordinator in biological engineering, and I've been here maybe about just a little over a year, and I'm trying to develop the network for this job and for this position. We've been reaching out to a lot of the high schools and seeing if maybe we can go in and talk to them, because a lot of people don't even know what biological engineering is. So I need to recruit. And so I'm trying to form my network to recruit. And I'm not necessarily making that network for me, because I'm the third person in this job in 3 years. So it's more, I'm making sure that they know what's going on in the department.
It's
And
an institution. You're
yes,
building the institutional knowledge, right?
and what I'm trying to bring in is, like, I went back and in the list of how people they came and they spoke, and so just getting people that they've invited back in. Some are alumni, some are industry contacts, and now we have a department. We're putting on a conference that we're doing, and I'm trying to send out to every single one of them. And I even downloaded a list of all of our alumni for the past 10 years to initially, I'm not asking anything from them. I'm giving them something first. It's like, here's a networking opportunity for you, and I would love for you to come. And but some of them have actually responded to me, my personal emails to them, because I would said, hey, you came and spoke in this class on this date saying this thing, and it was really great, and we would love to see you. So making that other personal connection to it, so that they have a point of reference, because they don't know who I am, but they know who the department is.
Yeah, very important. And I love how you bring it back to the institution, because as you say, you're the third person in that position. Well, guess what? One of these years I'm going to retire, and I am not going to be here with all of those, people. So it's important to make sure that we build it into the institution. And I know that Liz does that a lot. Okay, I love some of the comments that are on the chat. Take home message is to focus on the giving aspect of the network. I am right there with you. Facebook is not great at maintaining connections. Well, you know what I do every day, almost every day? I have like 1,400 friends on Facebook, and it's a lot of students. It's a lot. And guess what? Every day I get on and I wish somebody, bless them, the ones who put their birthdays on there, I make sure that I wish them a happy birthday every day. So that's how I utilize that. And then we use, of course, social media for our different, marketing tools. And so we do that, and I make great connections, but Facebook is really more for me about the personal, the personal connection. So Janae says, stay active on all social media. That is so true. If you want to be seen as somebody that people can rely on, social media, spending even 10-15 minutes a day on that, it's important for that. So Leslie, you've emailed people on the list to let them know that you're leaving. That's a great idea. And what you can do for them before they move on to the next one. That's awesome. That is really awesome. So anybody have anything that they would love to share for a last minute tip on networking? I come to these things and I learn. So I'm grateful for the opportunity. I really am. I'm really grateful to Liz for taking time to be here. For those of you, some of you know already, Liz and I are sisters. And so we have we've been friends her whole life, because I'm older than her. And it has been one of the best things ever in my life. And I've learned a ton from her. And hopefully she's learned a little bit from me too. So it's been a great opportunity. And thank you so much, Leslie, for the opportunity.
Thank you, Kathy. We will be posting the recording as well as all of the slide resources on the SEA Development YouTube page, and you'll get that in the newsletter as well. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.